All right. Hello, 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 hello. Sean Brady here with my man Alex Wood for another fabulous episode of Leverage Your Lunch Hour, where you don't have to be eating lunch to change your thinking and use this time to leverage your life. Alex Wood, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
What's happening over there at the Medici?
Oh, just working on the newsletter and stuff and getting stuff done, trying to be productive.
Doing our marketing cool stuff. Well, thanks for doing it. So this episode is basically sabotaging or stopping ourselves from success, right? And there's tons of articles on self-sabotage, so I won't go into all that stuff. You can find it up for yourself. But one of the things I was discussing with a group this morning was basically stopping ourselves from success. And some people call it stinking thinking and negativity and all these other things, and those little things that we say to ourselves that just really prevent us from becoming or being the way we want to be. So is there any cool things in your life or your idea of success or a goal, Alex, that you're going towards, and sometimes you just get derailed?
Yeah. Yesterday we talked about some long-term stuff, but on the shorter term stuff.
And for people who didn't see the show, living in Amsterdam, right? On a riverboat. How cool would that
be? Great. 5-year plan. But on the shorter term, I'm also a side project. I'd say I'm building a website right now.
Oh, cool. And what's the website for?
It's an e-commerce site. It's selling printed clothing and stuff. And the reason I started it was mostly so I could practice some of these other marketing platforms that I haven't had as much experience as I'd like in the past. And then the website can serve as a portfolio of sorts for my marketing skills. And that's something that's a larger project and takes a lot of time and is done solely within my free time. So it's one of those things that's harder to stay consistent with.
Yes. Got it. So in staying consistent with it or not staying consistent with it, what do you notice that kind of derails you? What do you do instead of, I'm sure you plan out time, right? You budget a little bit of time in your plan, in your schedule.
Absolutely.
So when do you usually like to do that? After work, your lunch hour?
I do it after work. I do it after work. I love the idea of doing it in the morning before work, but I'm not a morning person. And
there you go.
One thing at a time. So after work, and I usually do it after I've had something to eat. So I've had a little bit of a break from productivity.
Sure.
Maybe around 7 or 8 or so, I'll start watching some how-to videos and messing around with the design of it and things like that.
Okay. So now you have this time idealized in your mind and even probably on your schedule, right?
Yeah.
So what stops you? What gets in the way?
Mostly just distractions, and I think it usually starts with fatigue. So if I've had not a more stressful day, but maybe I didn't get enough sleep the night before, it's just that end of the day discipline that's harder to manage, and maintain. But it's funny because with those types of projects, especially when you're learning something new, it never goes as fast as you'd like it to.
Right.
And speaking of those negative thoughts that can kind of derail you, I think it was last week I sat down and I was working on something and I was kind of stressed because it wasn't going very fast, and you're not where you want to be at this point, and blah blah blah. And here, 1 second, Sean.
Sure, go ahead. Alex is at Medici, and he is taking care of people at the front desk. So there you go. Real live stuff in the real world. Medici Space, 2055 Walton Rd. Just off of 170. You're back.
And I remember I said to myself, to my internal self, but out loud, like, God, shut up. I am doing the thing. I'm doing the thing.
Right.
What more do you want? God. And then I sat and then kind of laughed about it a little bit because it was ridiculous. And then after, you're able to have a little bit of sense of humor with it, I was able to get back on track and keep at it for another hour and a half or so.
Got it. So you basically talked yourself into pushing on, pressing on, and you kept your discipline.
Yeah, it's people talk about being mindful and catching yourself when you're some of that negative stuff isn't making sense,
right?
And certainly isn't helpful. And then it also helps me sometimes when I'm able to slow it down to have a bit of sense of humor about it, because I think that's something that's common, and when it's especially when it's a little bit silly, it's okay to laugh about.
Good. Now, is there anything else that really derails you though, where it's like, oh, you know what, and then you just don't do it, and maybe you don't even know
this week it's been the election. It's been just a constant.
Because the election absolutely should impede on the things that you're committed to for yourself.
Yeah, it shouldn't, because you vote, it's out of your hands. Like,
that's right.
There's nothing.
You can't do anything else about it. You didn't run for any offices,
right? And whoever is the president of the United States is probably not going to directly affect my website progress. It's just
probably not.
It's a smaller thing. It's a personal thing. So they're not related, and it's better to just try to let some of it go.
But isn't that funny how it affects so many other things? I was with a couple of friends last night, and they both stayed up way too late watching election results, knowing full well that, one, they can't do anything about it. Two, it's not even going to be finalized, right? It certainly wasn't finalized until the night before.
Yeah.
The night of the election, right?
I fell into the same trap because they're not going to know this for at least a couple days, and I'm sitting there
at least
at midnight,
couple days.
Oh man, maybe it doesn't.
And yet there's a lot of people out there who've literally lost sleep because of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to take something down even to a smaller level, because this was the other discussion that we had today that prompted this whole discussion, right? So, and they were talking about going through the drive-through, and it could be any drive-through. And, it's like, you got this, maybe you're late for lunch, or you're even treating yourself, right? And then you go away, and you're certainly away from that building, and you double check everything, because they're usually consistent, right?
Yeah.
But nobody's perfect, and sometimes orders get mixed up, and you got the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right. And we get these little pet peeves. The Reese, who was sharing, said that, it's like, oh, they gave me sweet tea instead of unsweetened tea. It's like, oh, so I specifically asked for unsweet tea.
I was looking forward to that,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing, especially when it's hot out. It's just nice and cool and chill. So that's actually, it's a similar pet peeve to mine, is getting sweet tea when I want just regular tea. I don't want it sweetened.
The little things sometimes.
Yeah. But we were talking, it's like, what are the things that we don't share with our group or our mastermind, right? Pushing us towards a common goal, bringing value to each other. We share all these big, grandiose plans, ideas, or, going to Amsterdam, right? Yeah. Being a marketing resource and being real value to people and companies, right? Those are bigger things, but then we never share the little things that get in the way, because sometimes we don't even notice it. We just get derailed by it. We get derailed by an election. We get derailed by the wrong drink in our order or something else, getting cut off in traffic, whatever the case may be, right? The weather. I can't do anything today. It's gloomy outside.
Yeah. Can't do anything today.
Oh,
I missed 1 hour of sleep.
I'm stuck inside, and it's a beautiful 75-degree sunny day in November here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
How weird is that, right? So we can make up all these little things, but the trick is realizing it, because most of the time we don't. We're unconscious.
A lot of them are automatic. You know, they're
instantaneous
little emotional habits.
That's right.
And then even if sometimes I think you have to take it a step further than just being aware sometimes.
Yeah.
Because if you're aware of your pet peeve that sort of derails you, but then you're frustrated now because you're aware, you're sort of kicking yourself twice.
Right.
You know, like, so kind of trying to remove yourself from your decision making from those emotions.
Yeah.
And that takes practice for sure.
And certainly discipline, right? Because otherwise, without being conscious to it, whatever it is, it's got you.
Yeah. And people say, you hear a lot of people say, you know, you need to be disciplined, but people also say practice discipline. And those are two subtly different mindsets. Is that it's one of the interesting things about discipline that I've read is that unlike, we think of it as like an emotional state, and it can be influenced by things like genetics and stuff like that. Sure. But discipline is not unique, but it's a little bit different in that it can be trained, and they compare it a lot to a muscle.
Yep.
You know, so when you're first starting out or trying to build a new discipline, either starting smaller or not just quitting your gym membership because you didn't get the full disciplined workout that you're looking for. So finding the balance of cutting yourself some emotional slack and not totally slacking off.
I know my friend Diane shared somewhere that even if she had a terrible day, she wants to complete one thing at the end of the day. Like nothing went her way, employees did this, something didn't go right with the client, whatever the case may be. She checks her stapler and she just fills it up. And then she's like, you know what? At least I filled up the stapler today.
That's got something. Yeah.
Right. Because we don't think about it that way, but what is the discipline or the practice? It is a practice.
Mm-hmm.
And, normally by this time of day, I have well over 10,000 steps. I think I don't even have 5,000 for me. I'm right at 5,000. I have 5,002 steps. Right. Now I know that I have another 10,000 steps to go. And I know it works better for my discipline if I get most of those in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I got something to do to catch up. Right. And I have not hit my step goal in, 15, 20 days. Like usually I don't do it on the weekends, but I've done it on the weekends. So, I think I'm going, I have to double check, but I'm at least on probably closer to 20 days now. The point is it is a practice. Yes. And we have the opportunity to give ourselves a little bit of grace and stay focused on the bigger goal versus getting distracted by, as someone described, as all the gnats that we're swatting at the gnats versus, going and say, oh, wait, I'm here to go after this. And I said I want to do this. And I'm getting distracted by the journey along the way.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, I think it's good to ask yourself what's more deflating, not finishing the thing that you said you were going to finish, or not working on it, not making
Right.
any progress. And
Right.
I have found it is always more deflating to find yourself in bed at night after a day when you didn't even try to do the thing. And I think we've all had those days. So it's better to practice.
Yeah. Well, and even just do one thing, like you said.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for a minute. Maybe
Yeah.
you know, maybe it's a software tool you want to try out.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you just pull up the software tool and read one paragraph about it, and that's all you did,
Yep.
you know your mind is going to be more at ease because you actually didn't leave it completely all hanging out there.
Yeah. You still put forth at least an attempt at figuring it out. You're that much closer. That 5 minutes of work, you're 5 minutes closer to being done or fluent with that program.
There you go. Dig it. Well, is there any practice that you can put into place, knowing that it's like, oh, I'm probably going to get derailed. I'll probably be tired again in the future.
Yeah. Seems unrelated, but
Okay.
I think keeping my room clean. Because my desktop computer is in my bedroom.
Yep.
And that's where my desk is. And if I let my room get too messy, you know, I've got coats and stuff on my shirt or on my chair, and the bed's a mess, and I got to step over a few things to get to my desk. It's just, it doesn't emotionally. I guess there's a, you know, no anti-productive vibe that just comes off of that.
Right.
And it's much easier to sit down and focus and start getting into work mode when your surrounding space is put together.
Dig it.
So maybe that's something I can work on.
Absolutely. Well, and maybe it's just a commitment also to, because you don't have roommates, correct?
No. Nope.
Right.
The
so
mess
maybe it's a
entirely
commitment to.
it's
right. So keep that space clutter free.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, my sweatshirt can't go over here, and I'm not going to put down my keys and, you know, other papers or whatever like I do.
No.
I see that I do that.
Next to the hamper, it goes in the hamper.
I know it's a big stretch and a lot of effort to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have the similar thing with now I do have roommates, my kids especially, and you know, I get frustrated when the kitchen's all left in disarray.
Yeah.
And you know, on my calls this morning, I'm cleaning out drawers, I'm putting stuff away. Nobody unloaded the dishwasher. And so I'm like, wow, you know, I had 3 hours of calls this morning, and I was standing the whole time just cleaning up the kitchen stuff. I'm like, that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's my desk space. It's like, I just want to have one area clean because I like to cook.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, if I can't cook or I can't put
there's no
dirty
place to put the cutting board
in the sink,
yeah.
Then I got to put it on the counter. And it's like, oh, now I just have less counter space now. And then it's cluttered and I don't like it. Right. Yeah. So I get it. And we all have our thing, right? People watching and seeing this, they got their thing. So I think the trick is to, like you said, practice it and then put in little things so that it's not there.
Yeah.
It's less of an issue, and we can stay committed and focused. You know, I've been wanting to make this dish, pork adobo, to try, right? It's a Filipino dish. And I never really made it before, not just with pork, usually chicken. So I'm like going, you know, I keep putting it off. And I keep putting it off. I'm like, I'm going to do it today. And other opportunities came up. I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah.
And it's going upstairs right now. So, but I couldn't do it because the whole kitchen was a mess.
Yeah.
I'm like going, oh. So I finally got into a place where it's like, okay, now my brain can process and I can get other stuff done.
Yeah. And no, I just thought of, we've sort of been talking about paying attention to emotional, mental triggers, like pet peeves and stuff. And then but I don't think we've talked too much about positive distractions or like feel good distractions. I wouldn't say positive.
Give us an example. What'd you think of?
For me, it was video games, for sure. Because it's on the same machine as my work. So, it's not like, oh, the TV's over there, but
it's not in a different room.
I'm looking at the same piece of machinery for my work and my games.
Right.
There's this guy named Mark Manson. I read his newsletter, and I usually like what he has to say.
Yeah.
But I read something by him, and he was talking about something that he called the attention diet.
Yeah.
Have we talked about that before?
No, I think I've read it before though.
Yeah. So similar to a food diet, it's getting rid of things that aren't good for you to be paying attention to. Those easy distractions. And he made the distinction: when you're on a diet or starting a diet, you don't keep your pantry stocked with a bunch of junk food.
Right.
You get rid of all of it. And
get rid of all of
good stuff. At least at the beginning, because if someone told you that they were going to start a diet, but keep all their junk food around,
right?
And they say, "Oh no, I'll just be disciplined about it. I'll have the willpower to say no."
Right.
That's completely ridiculous, because if that was the case, you wouldn't be needing to go on a diet.
Right.
So
or you're really disciplined about it until the 10th day or whatever. It's like,
right. And if
I don't want to make something healthy. Just have some munchies.
Yeah. So at the beginning, at least, you got to just get rid of all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Or at least the stuff that's most problematic. And so it was a month ago. I ended my PlayStation account.
Wow. Good job.
And on my computer, I uninstalled Steam, which is a big game library, an online game library.
Wow.
And I thought it was going to be a problem, but no, there's a few times like, oh man, I'd like to play some Rocket League right now or whatever it is, but I say, nope, I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll reinstall. I'm like, no, that's effort. I don't want to get back at, and it really has not been that big a deal. So
yeah,
sometimes just not trying to cut back, but if you can, if it's as easy as a uninstall button or something, just cut that out.
Right. Well, I was reading something similar along those lines, and I forget, it was like a digital cleanse, right?
Yeah.
And I did something a number of years ago with an old coach, Anne Marie, and she has to do a media diet. So no media for 2 weeks, unless you needed something for work, right?
Yeah.
So that was the only exception. But so no news, no TV. You could watch a movie, but it was like no new news coming in unless it directly pertained to your work.
Yeah.
Right. So, your marketing, would you really need to be looking at the election or the weather on vacation that you're,
nope,
for the weekend, whatever? No. And all the gossip, no. Right. But if it was a movie or something like that you wanted to give your time to, then you could do that, and you could actually budget it out.
Yeah.
But that was the whole idea of the media cleanse. And then they talked about a digital cleanse for the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, how easy is it for us to use one of the apps on our phone?
Yeah.
And I remember asking someone when I first got my smartphone, and they're like, oh yeah, I have like 70 or 80 apps on my phone, which probably isn't uncommon, especially today. But if you look at it, how many do we actually use?
Yeah, not a lot.
No. We certainly use the same, probably 5.
4. I was going to say 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. It's like, I know I use my Fitness Pal and my Fitbit. They kind of tie together. I know I use my Gmail and mail, right? And Google Voice. And there's, you know, 2 other ones that I check that I don't need to.
Right.
Like the weather. I know it's going to be probably cold when I walk in the morning. And it'll probably warm up during the day.
It tends to do that.
Yeah. So the whole thought and whole topic for this was basically noticing things that impede upon our success that we do to ourselves.
Here's one.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Now, in the spirit of this conversation.
Yes.
No more Instagram. Took no time at all.
Good work. You know, and usually I am, when it comes to Facebook and Instagram and even LinkedIn, I'm usually just a pusher of content, but kind of like the whole diet, right?
Yep.
It's like if it's there and I know it's there, sometimes I just get sucked in. And I noticed that I have been getting sucked in. So
you ever find yourself scrolling and realize, like, I'm not even having fun anymore? Like, I'm not even interested, and you just keep doing it. And you're like, what am I doing?
I do like the fun videos where they make me laugh. It's like, or like, whoa, how do you dance like that? Like, so coordinated.
Yeah.
Right. I find that, or you get the person singing. It's like, whoa, you really have a good voice. Right.
Yeah.
But there's all that time and fluff in between that I'm like, I'm not even looking for that.
No.
And it's like, whoa, where did those 45 minutes go?
Yeah. Flew by.
Well, I think that's what, so I guess to sum it all up, I think it's a matter of noticing.
Yes.
And reminding ourselves that it's okay to be distracted, especially if we stay on point for ourselves and our bigger objective.
Yeah.
But we're going to get distracted, so just embrace it.
Right. So say it's okay to get distracted. Not okay to stay distracted. Once you know what's going on, you got to make an effort to refocus.
There you go. I dig it.
Yep.
Cool, my man. Well, get that bumper ready to roll.
Yeah,
hopefully this made a difference for people out there. And, you know, here we go.
Well,
self-sabotage. It's up to you.
A little bit slow, 'cause I'm not as good at this as Jaleesa is yet.
Well, yeah, she's been doing it a lot longer.
All right. We ready?
We're ready already. It's good stuff.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Alex. Thanks, everybody, for watching. For you.